Welcome to Network with Pride, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Please keep engaging with the chat. If this is your first time at Network with Pride, welcome. My name is Jenna Campolita, and I'm the External Relations Coordinator in the Center for Career Design and Development. And this is our kickoff event for the spring semester. Our Network with Pride series is a way for you to connect with employers and network and learn more about industries of interest, different companies, different jobs, and hear it from people who are doing it, employers who maybe alums that were once career, from HR professionals who tell you all about how to apply to the opportunities. So there's lots of information that you learn in Network with Pride, and this is a series we'll have all semester, so I'll talk a little bit about that. But today's program is a really special partner program, not our first, with Hofstra English Society, who's been a wonderful partner. So thank you, Hofstra English Society. We're so thrilled that your members are here and supporting us, and I took initiative to select some of the employers who we've partnered with in the past. It is spring semester, woohoo, welcome. And it's time to start thinking about careers, internships, jobs, all sorts of things. So if you haven't scheduled an appointment with a career advisor in a while, you should do that. You can make an appointment through Connect, and Handshake is the place to be to check out all the different events. If you have your phone handy, I would strongly urge you to follow us on Instagram. We're at Hofstra Career, and that's where we're going to have all of our up-to-date information about all of our fairs and events for the spring semester. So be engaged and check out so you don't miss anything. And I'm so thrilled to introduce our Get Hired Hofstra series that we have prepared for the spring semester. There is truly something for everyone. So if you have your phone out, if you have your calendar out, save the date for a lot of these different events. You could see we're kicking off on February 23rd with the Get Hired Hofstra Equity and Inclusion hiring events, which is going to be really helpful. We have all different companies coming. I know Hachette Book Group is one that's going to be there for those of you interested in publishing. But all those companies have something in common, and that's they value inclusion and diversity, and they specifically have programs for candidates to support them not only in onboarding and getting them into the company, but supporting their promotion and success once they're working for that organization. Then we follow up with Get Hired in Business. We have Get Hired in STEM, Get Hired in Communications, Liberal Arts, and Healthcare. So for each of these virtual career fairs, they're all on Thursdays. And on the Tuesday before at 3:30, we have a networking info session with select employers that are coming to that fair, so they could check it out and talk to students in a more intimate setting to talk about the opportunities that they have and help you prepare to be successful at the fair. So check it out, start thinking about your next steps. And if you're here today, you could pat yourself on the back. You've done something good for your career development, because you're going to connect with these excellent speakers from HarperCollins. Carolyn, who's here today, is a director of talent acquisition. So this is the person you're going to want to ask all your questions in terms of, the resume, the interview, the internship program, their D&I initiatives. She can fill you in on that. But we'll probably kick off the conversation with Alie, our Hofstra alum, who's here. Welcome back, Alie. She graduated in Hofstra in 2015. I'm sure it seems like just yesterday, but so much has changed. And I don't want to read too much. She's going to tell you a little bit about her career path and how she got to the position where she is today, and what it's like, to transition from college to career. So I'm going to stop the share. I want to thank you all for participating in the chat. I can't wait to read some of these book recommendations. I think I had mentioned one that I recently read. I'm always looking for something new to read. I'm sure some of you maybe will be busy with your classwork, but it's always really helpful to have an escape and have something to read. And I'm sure that's what we all have in common here today. But Alie, why don't you kick things off and share a little bit about your time at Hofstra, how you transitioned from college to career to get into the role that you're in today.
Sure. So When I started at Hofstra, I was actually a political science major. I saw someone in the chat is also an English and poli-sci person. So I started in poli-sci, realized I could really easily add another major, especially in liberal arts with all the cross credits. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was just like, well, I guess I could get a job in publishing. So I just kind of went for it. And I loved all my classes. I really enjoyed my professors and just the fact that they were actual publishing professionals. And so the thing that they really drove home about the publishing industry was it's all about your experience, getting those internships, getting your foot in the door, making connections, because the publishing industry really is tiny. Everyone knows each other. Everyone has worked with each other. As I'm sure you guys know, there are the big 5 houses about to be the big 4. So we all work with each other. We talk to each other all the time. And so I was like, okay, I need an internship. I did one sort of political internship. It was in the governor's office in Massachusetts. And that was enough for me to be like, nope, politics is not the career for me. So the following summer, I started applying to various internships. I got one at a literary agency. That was my first publishing internship. It was a lot of reading the slush pile, but it was really good to sort of get, sorry, I had a crazy meeting before this. It was a way to sort of get something publishing on my resume. And from there, I applied to Penguin Random House. I had a publicity and marketing internship at Dutton. And a lot of folks, when they go into publishing, want to be editors. But that's really actually just such a small part of the industry overall. There's a whole lot more to it, such as publicity, which is what I do. There are the marketing teams, the art designers, the production teams, managing ed, sales. So if you like books and have a particular skill set, there's something for you in publishing. So I interned at PRH at a few places. I was lucky enough to get a job offer from one of them. So I graduated with an offer in hand. They're nice enough to let me take a little vacation before I started. So I was at PRH for about 4.5 years, working on mostly nonfiction. I sort of gravitated towards that. And after my first internship, I knew publicity is awesome. I love it. I get to read books and then like talk to people about them. And so I knew I liked publicity. I got this job. I was working a lot of sort of pop culture, entertainment, the occasional fiction here and there. Sadly, Blue Rider was folded. And I joined the imprints Portfolio and Sentinel, which are business and politics focused. So again, I was really the most interested in nonfiction, which was a really good way to sort of wed my interest in politics and news and culture with book publishing. And then after about 2.5 years there, I made the jump to my current job, which is basically the dream job, working at William Morrow and Day Street. I'm a publicity manager here, working on all sorts of entertainment and pop culture and celebrity books. What we like to say about Day Street is that our authors all have day jobs. So it's lots of journalists and politicians, various business people, activists, celebrities. It's just a ton of fun every day. I never do the same campaign twice. Everything is different. I'm learning constantly. And if you're like me and you're completely addicted to news and media, this would be a really good job for you. So I think that answers how I got here. It's a saga, but here we are.
It does. And I think it's helpful to hear a little bit about the political internship that you did, because I think sometimes there's a lot of pressure to like figure it out and know exactly what you want. And sometimes it's not crystal clear as you begin. So you had mentioned, many people go into publishing thinking they want to be in editing, but that's a small part.
Mhm.
So if you could go into maybe what about your job in publicity is motivating for you? What's exciting about it? Maybe to use an example of a recent book you were promoting
Mhm.
or something, so people can hear a little bit more about the day to day.
Yeah, so in publicity, what my job is once the book is written or hopefully done being written, that's sort of when I jump in. So the author has been working on the book sometimes for years. By the time it goes from the editor's hands to my hands, and I start working on books about 9 to 6 months out, depending on the project. And so what my job is to obviously read the book, get to know the author, get to know their platform, whatever subject matter it is that they're talking about. Maybe it's a memoir about their life. Maybe it's, an expose on a company, something like that. So my job is to take the book and take the author and put it in front of the media who are going to put it in front of our consumers. So the way I do that is a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls and mailing out books, and just really, like I said, talking about it. And like I was saying, if you're a news and a media junkie, you need to know sort of what are the trends right now, what's upcoming, what's played out, what are journalists and editors and producers talking about. So if you like watching TV and reading magazines and newspapers, it's a pretty good job because I would be doing all that anyway. And now I'm just doing it with sort of a focused attention. So one example is I'm working on a book called Liftoff, which is about Elon Musk and sort of the founding and early days of SpaceX. And so what's really cool about that book is the author is such an incredible storyteller. So you really kind of feel like you're reading a sci-fi novel when you read it. He's really good about laying out the stakes, talking about these characters. And obviously Elon Musk and SpaceX are in the news every single day. So what I do is find out who's reporting on this, who's talking about it. And I just write to them and offer to send them books, talk about different pieces we might want to do, whether that's, hey, do you want to excerpt this chapter all about, there was recently a SpaceX mission that just like exploded catastrophically. So when that happened, it was like, hey, do you want to excerpt the piece about their very first launch ever and how that one also was a catastrophic failure? So really tying news of the day to the book. And in addition to those sort of newsy relevant ties, I'm also talking to what we call the book people. Those are book review editors. Those are the people whose main job is books themselves, not necessarily the topics that change from campaign to campaign. So in order to sort of hit that crowd, I'll be pitching reviews, basically talking about how compelling this book is. The read is so great. The characters are fascinating. They're real people if you want to talk to them, type thing. And just sort of thinking about who's the audience for this book and what media do they already consume. And we have, since we publish tons and tons of books every year, we have a pretty good idea of which consumers are where. So for someone like this book, like they're probably, if they're into SpaceX and tech, they're probably on Reddit. So I set up a Reddit AMA. If they care about business news and startup culture, they're probably reading Fast Company. So I'll set up an interview in Fast Company. It's really about kind of looking at all the pieces of the puzzle before you put them together and figuring out where every piece goes. Thinking along the lines of getting some TV for it, magazines, radio, podcasts, just how can we hit as many eyes of readers as possible in the lead up to the book. So I'll work starting usually about 6 months out all the way through the publication date, setting up launch events and panels, and just being really agile and active and seeing like, oh, Elon Musk said this crazy thing, let me pitch everyone about this book since he's top of mind. And just really making sure as many people know about the book as possible through media.
That's really helpful and interesting to hear about. So it makes me want to read the book too. So you did a good job.
It's a great book. It's out March 2nd.
So Carolyn, working in talent acquisition for students and alums that might be attending right now, fill us in on how someone who's interested in either an internship or a full-time job, tell us more about HarperCollins, how recruitment works, and how they could make themselves a competitive candidate.
Sure, happy to do so. So at HarperCollins, we have 3 internship programs. That's really a great way, if you can work it out with your schedule, a great way of kind of testing the different areas that departments that are in publishing, or maybe you know that you really want to work in marketing, but working at a big publisher versus working at a smaller publisher. So if you're able to do an internship, I definitely say go for it. So we have, again, three internship programs. The fall and the spring programs are 10 weeks. And they've actually in the past have been only 14 hours a week. However, our spring program, which we are wrapping up recruitment for right now, we actually recently added the option of 21 hours. We did that because of just
I lost her a little bit. Did anyone else lose her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Work from home life.
It is, I know, right? At least no one has the kitten filter. I know Darlene and I were talking, I don't know if anyone saw that. Oh, sorry, she's back. We lost you for a bit. I don't know, Carolyn, if you're fully back, but you were talking about the 3 internships. She might have fallen off. Alie, I'm not sure if you're familiar with any of the intern programs, if you could kind of take it.
Yes, Carolyn's back.
Oh, Carolyn's back.
I don't know. Perfect. What just happened.
I know it was a little bit of a connectivity issue, but that's okay. You're back now. So
okay.
You were talking a little bit.
I don't even know where you stopped hearing.
I think she was talking a little bit about the 3 internship options and wrapping up recruitment for the spring, right? I think that's where
okay. Okay, great. So yeah, so we're wrapping up for the spring, and now we have the either 14 or 21 hour option for the spring program. Then we'll have the summer program. We're still working out the details for the summer program. Opportunities should be posted in March, and the program will be 10 weeks, 28 hours a week. So essentially you're working like Monday through Thursday. We do have a lot of programming for the interns, and our programs have been remote since the fall. And will continue to be at least through the summer. I do think that going forward, I'm sure we'll have, once we are back into the office at some point, we'll probably have a combination of remote and in-person internship opportunities. And then of course we have our full-time opportunities as well, which are posted on our website. That's the best place to look for them. But you could also, it'll show up, of course, on Indeed. You can see it on LinkedIn. But those are the main places to look. We also have a Facebook page, Harper Careers on Facebook, and also Twitter. So we do post opportunities there as well. Were there additional questions that I missed?
Well, there's in the chat, someone asked if you'd be able to send a link for the internship opportunities. When they looked, they could only find the postgraduate internships. So you had mentioned recruitment for the summer would be starting in March. So you'll have those opportunities coming.
Exactly. Yeah, there are no internships posted for Harper. The internships that you do see on our website, if you have gone recently, are for Harlequin, which we have a New York office for Harlequin. It is an imprint or division at HarperCollins, but their internship program is separate from ours. So those, if you apply for them, certainly encourage you to. It's definitely very differently structured, but those will be separate from the ones that we'll be posting in early March.
And I see Sabrina added to make sure to like your Facebook page, that all the updates will be there on social media.
We do so too, yeah.
Are internships open to graduate students?
Absolutely, yeah. Those who are still in school or have already graduated. I would say underclassmen, maybe not as much, just because we use our internship program as a talent pipeline. So the more you're able to, I should say,
oh, it looks like she might have connectivity issues. So I see someone in the chat shared the Harper careers for the Facebook page, which is really helpful. Now, Alie, do you have interns in your role as in publicity? Oh,
Yeah.
And now for students interested in an internship, but Carolyn, can you hear me okay?
Hi guys, so sorry. I don't know why it's like coming in and out.
That's okay. I was curious for students who are applying to be an intern, and I know Alie says there are interns in her department. So what makes a great intern? What are you looking for at HarperCollins? How can students make themselves a competitive candidate?
Great. So I would say, certainly when you're applying for positions, we look at the cover letter. That's really important, just showing that you are really passionate about books and HarperCollins, super helpful. An easy way to structure your cover letter would be like 3 to 4 paragraphs. First one being the why. Why are you interested in working at HarperCollins? You could say that you attended this event and you learned a little bit more about it and you loved it, whatever. Also, why are you interested in the imprint that the opportunity is with? So if it's Avon Romance, you're listing some of your favorite Avon authors or titles that are published by the imprint. And then also, why are you interested in editorial, publicity, marketing, etc. Those are like, that is I think the most helpful thing when we're reviewing. When we have our interns here after we've hired you, the ones that are most successful are the ones that are willing to go above and beyond. So like ones that don't just do what is asked of them, but also asks others, hi, can I help you with something else? Like I'm able to manage it with my workload, or I noticed that, this, I think it would be really helpful if you had, a graphic to go with this letter. Would it be okay if I tried designing some? Just trying to find ways to improve process. And networking, of course, is really important too. So getting to know as many people in the company as possible while you're here, taking advantage of everything that Harper has to offer during the internship program.
Yeah, and going off of that, we had a really great intern. I think she was our summer intern, Sophie, and we ended up hiring her. She was so creative. She was passionate about books. She had her own Bookstagram account. So we know she wasn't just, saying it to get the internship. And she really made an effort to get virtual coffee with every single person in our department. So it's really important to get to know people because, like I said, it's a really small industry. We cross paths with each other all the time. So the fact that she had the initiative to come to me, set up coffee, she knew what I was working on, asked me tons of questions about it. I obviously love sharing my experience with people just because that sort of is what helped me get into the industry as well. And she, in addition to the projects that we assigned to her, she said, hey, I think there's something going on here on TikTok with books, with book talk. I would love to do some research and do a presentation for you guys about that. And we were like, oh my God, yeah, totally. So we were just really blown away by her initiative and just the care and effort she put into everything. Because everyone here really does go above and beyond for our authors and our books. So to see that in someone who was an intern and really early in her career is something that we love to see. And like you said, Carolyn, we love to hire folks like that.
Yeah, that creativity makes an intern stand out for sure. But Catherine put a question in the chat that I think really is a hot topic right now. And Alie mentioned with the virtual coffee networking that the intern did, now we're in a remote world. So what has the experience been like for interns working remotely, for you all, managing interns remotely? What are the kind of the expectations? What has changed? And what are your thoughts on it?
I guess I'll just start. It's been different. Obviously tech issues is probably the biggest thing. When we kind of came up with but we had been talking about actually doing a remote internship, if not a full remote internship, just even like a couple of interns for years, honestly. So I was really excited to have the opportunity, now that we're all working remotely, to say, hey, let's actually get this off the ground. And so a lot of thought had been put into the planning of the program to make sure that people still felt like they were a part of the company after never having stepped actually foot into the office. So we came up with a plan, some guidelines for managers in terms of kind of remote managing an intern remotely, a lot more check-ins. For our fall program, normally it's very open-ended, like people start at different dates, they work different hours. We wanted to have that flexibility, but at the same time, we wanted to have programming that everyone could attend. So we made it so that in the actual posting, there were certain times that were mandatory that the interns had to be available for in order to be eligible to apply. And through that, we were able to have different departments talk about what they do. This is something we do over the summer always. So they were able to kind of talk about their own career paths. We also had intentional time for interns to get to know each other. So we went around and asked like fun questions. And so that was great. And then also there's 3 of us that kind of manage the internship program. We would do weekly check-ins with the interns, we would rotate. So just to make sure that they were getting meaningful work, that they weren't overwhelmed, answering any questions that they have. And then also if there was anyone that they was interested in meeting with or talking to, putting them in touch with them. Although I will say the managers did an amazing job of doing that on their own. Our theme of the program is just, it is what you make of it. So again, a lot of it, we don't do a lot of hand-holding. So it's really taking the initiative and just asking and just trying to learn as much as possible.
Yeah, and there is definitely a way to sort of set yourself apart and go above and beyond, even remotely, which is like exactly what Sophie did. She said, hey, there's this trend. I'd love to do some research and tell you all about it. So she didn't need to be in the office to accomplish that and to get all of our attention. And it definitely is what you get out what you put into it, like with most things. In terms of specifically my job and publicity and the publicity internship, so much of what we do is online anyway. Really my day-to-day hasn't changed all that much. It's just I'm working in my bedroom. Emails, phone calls, mailing, that all happens regardless of whether I'm in an office or not. The biggest change is obviously just meetings. We're not in a room together, we're on a Zoom together.
Oh, it's helpful to hear how everyone is adjusting. And I want to open it up to more questions. I know we have one in the chat from Sabrina, questioning, is Inkyard Press and Harlequin internship limited only to graduate students? Carolyn, I don't know if you can answer that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually just looked at the posting because, again, I don't actually recruit for them, but it does look like it is actually only for those who have graduated. I think from what I remember, the structure of it is very different. I think it's basically full-time. So, but for like a specific period of time. So I guess realistically, they just expect that most people will have already graduated or have equivalent work experience that, would then be able to accommodate that amount of time.
Okay. And, for everyone else attending, now's a great time. If you haven't had a chance to put a question in the chat, if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, if you want to raise your hands, whoever would like to chime in, feel free. If there are any.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Please.
Hi, so my question is, I've had a lot of different internships where I've done different tasks that someone in publishing would do, but I've never had an internship with a publishing company specifically. But that kind of against me if I was applying for entry-level positions at a publishing company like yours.
I think the best thing to do, I mean, and honestly, like for any entry-level position, you don't need, I mean, you have to look at the requirements. So sometimes they may say that you should have, internship experience in publishing, but most of them don't. Prior internship experience or office experience is definitely helpful. And if you look at the job description and some of the responsibilities, and if you do have transferable skills from one of your internships, then putting that in the cover letter would be really helpful to say, well, I don't have direct publishing experience, these experiences would be similar because of X, Y, and Z.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else?
Is there like a specific timeline of when you should start applying for internships, or is there?
I mean, it depends on the program. So for us, we'll probably have a deadline. Like it'll probably be only like a week long or a 2 week long period in which you could apply. And then really any time within those 2 weeks you could apply. But if it doesn't have a deadline, then the sooner you apply, the better. Just because we try to fill these things as quickly as possible. We used to do it more as like on an as-need basis, like we would just kind of on a rolling basis, I should say. But we have kind of switched to more of a finite period so that people have, you know, enough time to apply. And then we go through them all and it takes a long time.
We maybe have time for one more if someone wants to speak up.
Hi, I have a question. So when would you recommend applying for full-time positions, and how would you stand out during the interview process for the full-time positions as opposed to internships?
Sure. So for full-time positions, I would say about 3 to 4 weeks prior to when you could start working. That's a good time to start looking for entry-level positions. We fill roles on an as-need basis, which means that chances are the position is open because someone had resigned. And then usually in that case, it's like we need to fill the position as soon as possible so that there's not too much time in between the person leaving and the new person starting. So the best thing to do for that is you can be very upfront in your cover letter, and in that last paragraph say, you know, I'm wrapping up my final semester at Hofstra. I would be available to start working as of May 31st. And that way the recruiter can make the judgment call on whether or not they would be able to consider you. Every situation is different. We may know that the hiring manager, you know, someone had resigned, but the hiring manager is going on vacation for 2 weeks. And so we're not going to be able to wrap up that position for a while. Or we might know that there really isn't much, or maybe the person is going back to school and so they gave a month's notice. So in those cases, we would have more time. Sometimes we don't have as much time. So just being upfront with it in your cover letter is really helpful to the recruiter. In terms of the interview, I would say research as much as possible. Prepare yourself as much as possible. We're not going to try to like stump you with questions. They're really basic and they're just, you know, related to the job that you're applying for. But I would say, you know, certainly read as much as possible. You be prepared to talk about books. I know it's a kind of a silly thing to say, but you know, certainly if it's an editorial position and you're meeting with a hiring manager, they're going to be asking you, what have you read recently and what is your opinion of it? So again, just reading as much as possible, researching the company, have questions prepared. It's completely acceptable for you to write those questions down in advance. And then when you get to that point, say, oh, I actually jotted a few down. Is it okay if I just, you know, pull them out and ask them? Also, another thing that's really important that a lot of people don't do is writing a thank you note. So important, make sure it's specific to the conversation that you had with the person that you met with. If you met with multiple people, you should send a thank you note to everyone and not have it be exactly the same, because they may forward it and say, and the other person will be like, oh, I got the same exact word for word one. So that can really, really help as well.
Those were great questions. So, you know, as we wrap things up, I was curious, oh, and just a follow-up Emily has, for the thank you note, would that be sent through email?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would not trust snail mail. You know, if you would send it out like a day after or 2 days after, you don't want to wait too long, just in case maybe you were the last person they were interviewing and they're ready to make a decision.
These are excellent questions. And, you know, I'm just curious, Alie, you know, now that your time at Hofstra is a memory, but you've transitioned over, looking back, you know, if there anything you wish you had known when you were graduating that might help ease some of the stress or anxiety that some students are feeling, given the uncertainty of things, you know, how might you share some advice?
Two things come to mind. One is that if you are an English major in the publishing studies program at Hofstra, don't do a publishing graduate course. Save your money. You don't need to do the NYU course or the Columbia course. nothing you learn there will be new information. Really why a lot of people do those is that they're coming from schools or experiences away from New York City, which is obviously the hub of all publishing. So there another big reason is to do it for the networking. So you can do that for much cheaper by doing what you're doing now. Doing these networking events, applying to internships. A lot of times it's really about applying to everything and getting your foot in the door, meeting people, talking to people, and sort of moving your way through the industry that way. And also I remember being in my senior year and just in a total panic about getting a job. And similar to the internships, just apply to everything because you never know what you might end up loving. Like when I applied for a publicity and marketing internship, I thought I wanted to be an editor. And I was like, wait, this is way more fun. So I would say just keep a really open mind when it comes to internships and jobs. You don't really know what's out there until you're in it. And you might take a job and have really great colleagues, work on cool books, and even if it's not the role you originally envisioned for yourself, you might love it. I know that's happened to so many of my friends in the industry. So keep an open mind and apply everywhere and don't do a publishing graduate course. Save the money. Because Hofstra's publishing program really is like, I think amazing. It really set me up so well for working in the industry, just because I knew how the editorial process worked. I knew how cover design worked. I knew how publicity and marketing worked, how everything worked. So I was just that much further ahead on day one of my internship and my job.
That's really great to hear. So thank you, Alie. And Carolyn, any final words of wisdom or an action plan for students? One tip, if they could work on something, to set themselves up to be successful, what might that be?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't say just one thing. I would just say, again, reading as much as possible, knowing what's on the New York Times bestseller list, that you're prepared to talk about books. There's tons of resources out there to just read up on the industry. Publishers Weekly, Publishers Marketplace has a daily email for Publishers Lunch. There's Shelf Awareness, GalleyCat, like just follow editors and other publishing professionals on social media. You'll get tons of information that way.
Mhm.
There's also really great organizations like Latinx in Publishing, POC in Publishing, We Need Diverse Books. So also read up on them and what they're doing. They often have grant opportunities. There's just so, like, I'm always very big on research. So just doing that's something you can easily do. And then also just look at your own bookshelf and research what are the imprints that you naturally are really interested in. That's a great place to start for applying for internships and full-time roles.
Wonderful. I feel more informed. I hope that you all do. So thank you so much to Carolyn and Alie for taking time out of their day to participate in Network with Pride. Thank you, Hofstra English Society. Save the date. Network with Pride is up next week with Cintas. If you don't know what they're all about, go check them out. But thank you, Alie and Carolyn. Stay well and continue to stay engaged, everyone. Take care.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.